the webinar is on connecting to the 5 ways to well-being, which are connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give. We'll also be exploring other different things around our mental health and our well-being. We'll touch on stress a little bit too. So welcome everybody. So just a tiny little bit about Mental Health Ireland before we start. So we're the longest established mental health charity in Ireland. We were established in 1966. We promote mental health, well-being and recovery. We work in co-production, which means the end user is involved from the very beginning. It's a fantastic way of working. It's a bit slow, but you get really rich outcomes. We've 32 member organisations, including mental health associations and Thrives, which are in North Dublin. So we've Thrive Brogan and Thrive Swords. We've 10 development officers, and I'm one of those. I cover North Dublin, Kildare and West Wicklow. With peer recovery and education staff, dedicated teams in mental health promotion, training and education, communications, PR and fundraising. And we have national, European and international networks, and we're part of the Global Leadership Exchange and the iCircle. So the aim and objectives of this webinar. So the aim of the webinar is to equip you with the knowledge and attitudes required to understand and implement actions to support your mental health and well-being. And the objective of the webinar is to define what mental health and well-being is, and to identify how the 5 ways to well-being can model can help you look after your own well-being. So when we're talking about mental health and well-being in terms of a holistic way of looking at our health, we can look at our environment. So the environmental impacts. So our environment, just say if it is where we work, live and play, I'm talking about socializing. So where we work, how we work, the built environment and the relationships, they can all impact on our mental health. For example, if you were to work in a place that had no windows and you were doing long shifts, this might have an impact on our mental health. Where we live is where we live, safe environment. You know, if we go outside our door, is there any triggers or any threats to our safety? And where we play or socialize, do we have access to social pieces like, you know, your football or going for coffees, or is there transport to those places, or are they even available? Then we can look at societal factors. So where we stand in society, where we think we stand in society, and where we are viewed in society. So whether we're a man, a woman, we work, we don't, we have kids, what age we are, they'll all indicate, and maybe religion, what colour our skin is, that all indicates where we might be viewed in society. And then we have our internal pieces. So we have our spiritual piece. And that's, you know, it might be going to mass, it might be meditation, reflection, mindfulness, practicing something. So it's important that we're engaging in some spiritual piece. And I think in today's world, where we have so much emphasis on our phones and on, I suppose, digital life, that it's good to be reminded that there's something greater than us. And that actually takes a lot of pressure off us as people, as human beings. When we feel that we are the center of everything, that can put a lot of pressure on us. So to know and to be able to connect with something spiritual, that is really good for our mental health and our well-being. Our social piece. So if it's going, meeting people for coffee, having that social network. I was listening to a podcast recently about, you know, the importance of our social networks, even in aging, that people who have them social networks will live longer lives, along with exercise and good diet. But that social piece, having friendships and its positive social connections and interactions in their life. And it's easy sometimes for us to put them aside. And, you know, we all know Ireland is the loneliest country apparently in the world. So when we think about it like that, we need to be looking at our social piece and our social networks and nurturing them. Our sexual piece, and that's understanding our own sexuality and the absence of disease and the ability to procreate. Our emotional, so that's understanding our emotions and being able to express them appropriately. Our physical piece, that's around getting physical exercise, and we'll talk more about that. But you know, getting the required amounts of exercise and doing things that we like doing, but moving our bodies, so important. for our mental health. When we exercise and when we move our bodies, we're releasing those hormones that make us feel good. As I said, no one ever went for a walk and comes home and says, I wish I didn't do that, because you always feel good after, even going for a walk. And it also is around, that there could be physical illness or, prevention of physical illness, and then looking after, if we do have something, a chronic disease, looking after it as well. And then today, our focus is on our mental health. So defining mental health, so there's lots of definitions of mental health, and this is just one particular one that I like. So this is from the Department of Health in 2020, said that mental health describes how we think and feel about ourselves and our relationship to others, and how we interpret events in everyday life. It also relates to our ability to cope with change, transition, and significant life events, and to understand how to deal with the stresses that often come our way. I really like this quote because it kind of encapsulates everything. So how we think and feel about ourselves, our relationship with others, and how we interpret events in everyday life. We'll all interpret events differently. It's understanding and having that awareness of how we deal with those things. Our ability to cope with change, transition, and significant life events. So how do we deal with them? It's our ability to cope. And then to understand that stress, how to deal with stresses that often come our way. We all have stress in our lives, and we're going to go on to that now in a bit. But understanding how to deal with it and how I deal with it is going to be different from how you deal with it. It's being aware of how to deal with it in a way that is good for you. So to break it down really simply, mental health can be described in three ways, or three steps. So the first thing is it's our relationship with ourselves, and that includes our confidence and self-esteem. So we all need confidence and self-esteem even to leave the house. We need a bit of it. So if you're all working, then there's a little bit of confidence and self-esteem, but it's something we need to work on. So, and how we view ourselves, and the I suppose the self-talk that we have, do we like ourselves? Do we look after ourselves? When you get onto your flight, you're heading off on holidays, and the stewardess or the steward will come down and do the safety check, and they'll say, in the event of an emergency, your oxygen masks will fall down. And they'll tell you the most important thing is that you need to put that onto yourself before you start helping anybody else. So we're no good to anybody else if we're not looking after ourselves. So that's why our relationship with ourselves is number one. And then we move on to the second piece, and that's our relationship with other people. And this looks at our positive social interactions and communications. So the friends we have, our family, our communities, and then it's the positive, and I think that's really important to emphasize, the positive social interactions and communications that we have, because you'll find it everywhere. We'll all have people in our lives that aren't positive, and that might be in work, and it might be at home, it might be actually somebody in your house. And it's about looking after those boundaries and making sure that you do have those positive relationships in your life. And then the third piece is our ability to cope with life's demands using healthy coping mechanisms. So we'll all have demands in our life, be it in work or at home, or looking after somebody or being a carer. We'll have lots of life demands, and then we'll put a lot of demands on ourselves. If anybody's doing the marathon at the end of the month, that there's a lot of demand physically put on you, and time-wise, it's going to be put on you to get something done. So how do we deal with that using healthy coping mechanisms? And as I said, my healthy coping mechanism is going to be different from somebody else, but we all should be, or may be, aware of what the unhealthy coping mechanisms are. So when we are stressed, it might be, I'll have a glass of wine and that'll make me better, or I'll get the takeaway, or I'll sit in and watch TV, or I won't go on that night out, or I won't go to football. Whatever it is, we know are healthy. The things that aren't going to make us feel great might have an immediate feeling of, that's nice, but in the long term, it's not. So what are the healthy things that we can do? And as I said, everybody's is going to be different. So today is about looking at what are yours. So this is the mental health and wellbeing spectrum. It's a piece by Corey Keyes, an American psychologist. And I like it. It's a nice way of describing, I suppose, mental health and mental illness. We'll just say that for today. So You'll see here on the spectrum, purple, there's a high level of mental illness, and over in the orange, we have a low level of mental illness. Up the top, we've good mental health, and we call that flourishing. And down the bottom, we have poor mental health, and we call that languishing. This is a really hopeful piece. I personally feel that it's a piece of, I suppose, to demonstrate that change is possible and change can happen. It's quite on the recovery piece, I think, as well. So everybody who's looking has probably seen where are you today on this spectrum. And basically what it shows you is that if there's a low level of mental illness, so when we're saying a low level of mental illness, there's no maybe sign of a diagnosis, a mental diagnosis. And we can have good mental health and be flourishing. So flourishing, when we're flourishing, we're in control. And we're really excited, we're really positive, we've really good relationships. Everything's going well in work, everything's going well at home. It's just a really good place to be when we're flourishing. We've really good aims, we've objectives, we've put some time into thinking about these things, feeling really good about ourselves. You can have a low level of mental illness and have poor mental health and be languishing. So when we're languishing, we're not in control. Our relationships are breaking down because we're not really great to be around. Nothing is going our way. We're accident prone. Nothing's working out for us and we're feeling really bad. If you go to the other side of the spectrum, we can have a high level of mental illness. So there's a presence of a diagnosis of mental illness. So it's probably something that's lifelong and might need support and medical intervention at times. You can have a high level of mental illness and you can have really good mental health and be flourishing. So your life is going really well, you've got friends, you've got purpose, meaning, everything is going really good. You can also have a high level of mental illness and have poor mental health and be languishing. So nothing is going well and you're not in control of anything and you're feeling really poor, really bad. For me, it's hopeful because we understand that, as we grow, as time goes by, things can change. So if you're looking at this spectrum today and saying, geez, I'm not where I want to be, that's okay, because things will change and things can change and you can implement different things to enhance your mental health. So what are the risk and protective factors that impact on our mental health? So if protective factors enhance and maintain our mental health, I want you to think about what they could be. What are they for you? So it could be going for a run or going for a walk or going out with the dogs, spending time in nature, eating well, having friends, going out and meeting people, being involved in your local GAA, going to work, resting. These are all the things that might be seen as protective factors. Having structure in our lives actually is really important as well. Having that level of structure and being able to plan. So again, we're like in control. So these are all protective factors, and you'll have your own. There'll be ones that I haven't mentioned that you'll say, no, these are mine, and that's good. That's what you want to know. So having even 3 things that you can use that you know are looking after your mental health. And then we have our risk factors. So our risk factors increase the likelihood of mental health difficulties. So what might they be? It could be drinking too much, smoking, isolation, too much time on our phones, lack of structure, lack of sleep. So there's lots of things that can be risk factors to our mental health. And again, it's knowing what yours are, and being aware of that means that you can do something about it. So looking at stress. So we all have stress in our lives. Stress is important. We need stress. None of us would have turned up for work this morning if there wasn't a little bit of stress in our lives, or got the kids out to school, or, all those things that, again, the demands on us, those daily demands. We don't have a little bit of stress, then nothing gets done. So this is a definition. It's Mental Health Ireland's definition in 2019. We said that stress is a natural and healthy response to challenging situations or life events. Stress can sometimes be helpful in motivating us to complete a task. However, at times, stress can become overwhelming and affect our ability to cope. So looking at some of the impacts of stress. stress can have so many impacts on us physically and mentally, emotionally. So we're going to look at some of these, and you'll see that many of these you'll be familiar with, and probably a lot of them that you'll be familiar with and that you'll have experienced. So in our body, we can have headaches, frequent infections, thought muscles, muscular twitches, breathlessness, skin irritations, and fatigue. And when these things are happening, sometimes we'll put them down to something else. We'll say, oh, that's because, I was out cycling or I was lifting heavy things. And I know I get my shoulder lifts out of me when I'm stressed. And I know now, because I'm around a while and I've got used to it, that I know that that's my stress telling me I need to calm things down, is when my shoulder starts. But we can make excuses for that and say, no, it's something else. But actually, when that happens, we need to stop and say, okay, what's going on for me? And how can I alleviate this? So there's some of the things that we can see in our body. In our mind, we might be worried, muddled thinking, impaired judgment, nightmares, indecision, hasty decisions, and negativity. And again, all things that will come from stress. And I'm sure a lot of you sitting there will have had sleepless nights when you've racing thoughts, and it's because something might have happened that day or that week, or you just have a feeling, and you'll have that overthinking, and it's really, really tough. And again, that is our stress response telling us we need to calm down. And then our emotions. We're irritable, we're more fussy, we've loss of confidence, depression, apprehension, apathy, and alienation. And our behavior, we're accident prone, we've loss of appetite, or we've eaten more, loss of sex drive, drinking more, smoking more, relentlessness, and insomnia. So this is just some of the things that stress can do to our body, emotions, mind, and behavior. So our well-being. So the World Health Organization in 2001 said, well-being is present when a person realizes their potential, is resilient in dealing with the normal stresses of their life, takes care of their physical well-being, and has a sense of purpose, connection, and belonging to a wider community. It is a fluid way of being that needs nurturing throughout life. So I really like this from the World Health Organization. It says that well-being is present when we realize our potential. And some of you sitting here today might say, God, like, that's somewhere I haven't reached yet. Really realizing your potential. It's resilient in dealing with normal stresses of life. So the normal stresses, the losing your keys, and the forgetting you have a meeting in 5 minutes and you're not even dressed. Those kind of stresses that we all have. Waking up late and you don't know where anything is and you have to be out of the house in 2 minutes. So they're normal stresses, maybe not very normal. I don't do it every day, but how do we deal with them? Do we lose the head? Do all those things that we talked about happen when we get stressed? Takes care of their physical well-being. And I like that in well-being, we talk about physical piece as well, because I suppose the link between our mental and our physical is so strong. We can't have one without the other. In order to look after our mental health, we need to look after our physical health. And in order to look after our physical health, we need to look after our mental health. And I hope that makes sense, because I suppose the World Health Organization also said there's no health without our mental health. But even if you think about it in really simple terms, if you broke your leg and you were out of action, you were going to do the marathon, okay, and you broke your leg, you're after training for the whole year for this, and so you're not going to be able to go and do the marathon. You mightn't be able to drive. You won't be able to drive. You mightn't be able to work. You mightn't be able to go out and celebrate after the marathon. And I suppose you're relying on other people. You're totally relying on other people. So that's a physical ailment, and it will get better. Your leg will heal in 6 weeks or whatever. You will get better. Will it impact on your mental health at the time, though? For sure it will. For sure your mental health will be impacted. And it's vice versa as well. So if we're having if we have loss in our lives, so loss of a way of life, loss of a job, loss of a relationship, or loss of somebody through death, our mental health will be challenged. When our mental health is challenged, will that impact on our physical health? Absolutely. So when we're feeling really bad, do we want to, get up and go out for a run at 6 o'clock in the morning, or go and bring the dogs for a walk, or go and, get out and, I suppose, do the things that you like, physically moving your body, playing tennis or playing football? We probably don't. We probably won't do that. Will we want to go and meet people? No. Will we want to eat the right foods? Probably not as well. So our physical and mental health have to be looked at one. So when they talk about our physical well-being, it is so important. As a sense of purpose, connection, and belonging to a wider community. Can't stress enough how important it is to feel part of something, to have that social connection in our lives, as many of them as possible, but ensuring they're positive ones. Being part of a wider community. And I think the GAA is a great one for this, in bringing people together and feeling like part of a community, but finding what it is in your life that will do that. It's a fluid way of being and needs nurturing throughout life. And again, it's not that we're born with really good well-being and we don't need to do anything. It's just we're always going to have good well-being or bad well-being. That's not how it is. We have to look after it. We have to feed it the things that make it grow. So I think that's a really important part. We want to look at the 5 ways to well-being now and just explore them a little bit. It was a piece of work that was done by the New Economics Foundation in 2008. With this huge survey that asked thousands of people what were the things that enhanced and maintained their mental health and well-being. And these are the things that they came up with. They were free and accessible to everybody as well. It was really important. And there were things that if they were done every day, the 5 things were done every day, they would impact on your mental health and well-being. So connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give. So they're the 5 things. So if we do these 5 things every day, you would see an improvement or maintain good well-being. So to start off with connect. So I've talked about this a little bit already, and I do think it's one of the most important things. And we see it now a lot, I suppose, with different people talking about the importance of having that social piece in our lives. And definitely after COVID, we're talking about it a lot more, because when it was taken away from us, it impacted on us. So good relationships with family, friends, colleagues, and the wider community are important for our mental health. And building stronger, wider social connections can help us feel happier and more secure and give us a greater sense of purpose in our lives. So it's finding what is right for you. And it's not a one size fits all, but it's making sure that we have that person connection. When we're not feeling in the forum, I suppose, for meeting with people, to connect with yourself, to connect with nature, to connect with just the world around us, and even connect with animals. There's lots of ways that we can connect when at a time when we can't connect with other people, or maybe there's not people available. There's other ways of creating those connections in our life and nurturing those. It is something that needs to be minded. It needs to be looked after. We need to invest in it and invest time in it as well. So investing in those relationships. And sometimes it is that you have to be the person to pick up the phone or to call over or to suggest the night out or the cup of coffee, and investing in that as part of investing in your well-being, investing in your mental health and your physical health. So to be active, so there's lots of ways we can be active. Being active, as I said before, it's so good for you to move your body in whichever way you can. Whether it's, like I said, going for a run or a walk or playing sport, sea swimming. Sure, there's some people in North Dublin that have joined the sea swimmers for that cold water therapy, and just getting in and putting our bodies into maybe sometimes uncomfortable situations, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable is very, very important for us. So getting that heart rate up, and getting physically moving our bodies, it's just so good for us. So being active is good for your physical and mental health. Regular physical activity is associated with a greater sense of well-being, lower rates of depression and anxiety. So discover a physical activity you enjoy, and one that suits your level of mobility and fitness. And since COVID, I see so many other things that have come on board, rather than just your normal, your football or tennis or basketball, like dance, lots of different opportunities that something will suit everybody. And that's what we're looking for, is something that we enjoy. Because if we don't enjoy it, there's no point in going to the gym and sitting on your phone. I see lots of people do that. They go to the gym and they sit on their phone and look at TikTok. You have to be engaging in those things. Now, if you go to the gym for the chats, that's fine, because you're connecting. You mightn't be physically working out, but you're connecting with other people. I also see a lot of people doing that. But again, it's just about, we know this is good for you. So if it's a brisk, even 5-minute walk down the road or around your garden at a lunch break or between meetings, go and do that. And out in fresh air is the best thing. To be out in fresh air, to be moving your body outside, it's so powerful. And this morning, I know the weather was really bad yesterday. It was lovely to walk out in it though, but this morning was a fabulous morning. It was lovely, calm after the storm. And just to be in that sunlight in the morning, first thing before you start work. So building it into your routine. So if it is that you have to get up a half an hour earlier, or that you do take your lunch breaks. I know a lot of us, especially if you're working from home, you mightn't take your lunch breaks. Just go down, go out for that walk. Work will be waiting for you when you get back. And prioritize your physical health, because when you do that, you're looking after your mental health. And then you're an easier person to be around. You're more productive in work, you're more productive at home, you're more on the ball. So to take notice is like paying attention to your present moment. Okay, so what is that? We're going through life busy all the time. So if you're, if you have somebody or something you're caring for, kids, trying to get them out to school, you're always thinking about, what's for dinner tomorrow, when am I going to do this, that and the other, how am I going to get people here, there and everywhere. So it's slowing that down and actually just being in the present moment. So taking notice of the present moment. What are you doing now? And to do that, we can use different tools like mindfulness, but just to sit, and it can be just for 2 minutes, just to sit with your thoughts. So again, it's about, I suppose, acknowledging the world around us, which we don't do a whole lot of. Even if we're walking from one meeting to the other, we usually have our phones, and that's kind of feeding us what they want to feed us, rather than us taking control and being out in nature. Or even when you walk into a room, it doesn't even have to be outside, but walking into a room, take notice of what is in that room. Is there plants? Is there a picture? Is there a window? Because it's rare that we actually spend time taking notice. So taking ourselves back into the present moment can help us appreciate the simpler things in life and work on focusing our minds on one thing rather than several things. So go to the next one. So keep learning. So learning new skills is both useful, can also positively affect our mental health. Learn something that we haven't already known can boost our confidence, self-esteem, and give us a sense of purpose in life. It also makes us more interesting. I don't know if any of you have engaged in adult learning, mightn't be anything got to do with work. It's actually more interesting when it's nothing got to do with work. Maybe an art or craft or DIY opportunities to just learn something different. And you'll find that you end up meeting people that you would never normally kind of be around. And that's really, that adds so much more to our lives, just opens these extra doors. So to learn, it can be about, doing your PhDs or your masters or going back to third level education. But more importantly, it can be learning from each other. So even sitting down and having a conversation, asking questions, being curious, that's really important. It's not nosy. I always say that, being curious isn't being nosy when you're asking somebody about, something that they've done. Just explore that. That's always about learning. We're learning more. We should be learning something every day. I hope you're learning something from today's webinar, but it's to learn something as simple as a new recipe. I was going to say as simple as a language, but that's not simple. But a new recipe, a new way of doing things, a new way of looking at things. So when we're learning, we're constantly growing, and we're just opening different doors to different opportunities. And then to give. So to give is actually my favorite one. Because I suppose when you give, you actually get more than the receiver. That's actually proven. But when we're talking about giving, we're not talking about giving up gifts. It's about, I suppose, giving up our time. And our time is infinite. It is the most precious thing we have. It's infinite, and we spend time. So if you considered your time as money, would you spend it differently? Or what would you spend it on? I'm sure you wouldn't be throwing it away. And when you think about it with our time, sometimes that's what we do. But to give of your time to somebody who needs to talk or needs somebody to listen. And you can put it, you can look at it in the other way. If you need to talk to somebody, and you just need a half an hour just to get something off your chest, or just to work something out in your own head, you're not looking for advice. We usually aren't. We usually don't want advice. We usually just want somebody to sit with us and listen, not judge us, and just be with us. And it's so supportive when we do that. It's actually, problem shared is a problem halved. So to spend our time by helping somebody, by just listening. Another way we can give, which I really like, is to give of a compliment. Like, so when you're at the till, to just like really kind of engage with the person that is behind the till, and say thank you and mean it, or tell somebody that their hair is nicer, that their shoes are nicer, whatever. They did a good job. If you're a manager, that's to acknowledge somebody. So that's to give of a compliment. It's for free. We never know what's happening in somebody else's life, and especially in a work situation, because that's what we're here for. We don't know what our colleagues are coming up against in their own personal lives. So just to be kinder, so to give kindness, and to be more understanding, and just to smile, that's all we need to do. And that is contagious, so when we're in good form, that can be contagious to other people. And the feeling of when you go into work in the morning and somebody's in great form, just puts you straight in good form. But when you go in and somebody's in bad form, you all feel it. Everybody feels that tension. So just being aware of that, and aware that you can make a big difference in somebody's life by doing the smallest thing. So that's coming towards the end of my presentation. Thank you so much if you stayed tuned in on your lunch break. Here's some information and supports. So we've Mental Health Ireland, yourselves in the HSE, Your Mental Health, HSE Live, and Samaritans. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. And the email is info@mentalhealthireland.ie. And my email is caroline@mentalhealthireland.ie if you want to reach out.